Welcome everyone to the Unreal Engine Introduction course. I will be guiding you, or at least trying my very best to help you create really awesome environments and some fun looking cinematics, adding some characters and all that type of stuff, all the fun stuff that you can do with Unreal Engine. Now, before I do that, I'm really quickly going to say just two quick words about what the Unreal Engine is, just in case there are a few amongst you that are still a bit confused about what it does. But the Unreal Engine is basically a game engine at heart. That it started as a game engine back in 1998, and it grew to become so much more than that today. So it's not only used for video games anymore, but it's also used for previs, which is what I use it for. It is also used in architecture, in the automotive industry, films. They use it in full-blown production, like The Mandalorian. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can be done with the Unreal Engine. And maybe you just saw it from one of your friends, or you've seen it online, or you heard about it, and you got curious. Well, then this course is right for you. Let's get started. So, how do we download this? It's very simple. We just go up here, top right corner, we click on download, the big blue button, and then you'll have two different licenses. You got a publishing license or a creator's license. Very simple. One means you plan to maybe one day make some money off of it, and the creator's license, you don't plan to do that. I've downloaded the publishing license, but you can just as well download the creator's license. It makes no difference for this course. The most important thing is that you download it. So once you download it, what you will see is the following. Okay, and this is not the engine itself. This is the Epic Games launcher. Okay, and you will most likely start in home, but the one that you're interested in, if you go here on this side, is to the engine. Okay, because obviously the games launcher also has the games that you can buy in the game store, because obviously Epic Games makes games, and publishers that use Unreal Engine can sell their games in the Epic Games store. So that's where your games end up in your library. But what's important for you is the Unreal Engine, right? And you might also start seeing this first. So it's basically your home screen for your Unreal Engine, where you got your latest information and highlights, really fun stuff. You got your Learn, very useful. Okay, a lot of very cool tutorials. It's full of it, actually. This is a very, very cool community where you constantly have information that you can learn. It's really great, and it's all free, by the way. So none of this costs you any money. Then you got the marketplace. We'll revisit this soon, but I'm going to give you a few tips as to what to look out for and why you want to come back every month. So that's really fun. And then we go to the library, which is where all the action really happens. This is your library. This is where you've got your Unreal Engine version, because you've got many different versions. I have the latest one installed. Then you've got your projects. On this computer, I only have this particular project as a demo, because we're going to be using this demo during the tutorial. And then the vault is where you have a whole bunch of assets that over time I ended up either purchasing or I ended up getting for free. But we'll revisit this soon enough when we have to start importing. Now, the important thing is that when you start downloading, because you won't see the launch button yet, you will have to download it first. Please bear in mind that these sizes are not too small, so you need a good amount of disk space. Just to give you an idea, if I look at the total size of installed engine versions for me, it's 28.8 gigabytes. So it's quite a bit. And it takes a while to download. It also depends on your internet speed. I have a really good internet. I'm blessed with that. So for me, it's a few minutes. But for you, if you got to download 28 gigs and it takes half a day, well, plan around it, but go ahead and download it nonetheless. That's the most important thing to do. It doesn't matter whether you use a PC or a Mac. It is so that you'll find that the majority of things they tend to be more compatible with PC, but Apple users are doing okay. I'm finding interesting things on the marketplace. We'll get back to that again later on in the course when you are going to either purchase or download things. It's interesting thing to keep in mind. Right, so let's pretend that your download is finished in the meantime and you finally see the launch button. So let's click on launch and see what happens. Now, also another thing I want to say, at the very first time that you open the Unreal Editor, it's not going to open up as fast as it just happened right here. Okay, it's all going to depend on your computer. How fast is it? For those that are curious, this is running on a MacBook Pro 16-inch 2019 spec'd out all the way to the top. Not on top of the standard one that you can just buy, but just 16 gigs of RAM and all that stuff. It doesn't go to 32 or anything. I didn't need all that extra stuff. 16 is more than fine for this. But just to give you an idea what this runs on, okay, so maybe you have an older laptop and it takes a little bit longer. If your engine seems like it's stuck at 18% or something similar, do not panic. This happens the very first time you open up the Unreal Engine. Trust me, it will stick around for, it could even be minutes, or it could be quite a while at a certain percentage. Do not panic. Your computer isn't crashing. It's normal. It just needs to load up a lot of stuff. Right, but once you finally get past that, then we get to this screen, right, which is select or create a new project. Now, I already have a project, right, and which is this one, and we're going to use that later on because this is where all that information, all the stuff that you saw in the previous video, that environment or the environments, they're all in there. And so what we're going to do, you're going to see this basically. You've got either a category for games, film, architecture, and automotive. We are going to stick to games to make it easy. We could do television and stuff, but we're going to stick to games because even when I do my cinematics, I always start in games. It's, for me, just so much easier. It's what I got used to. Then we click next, and then we will be able to select a template, right? And also here, again, you can choose your first person or third person, a flying. See, they all have different type of templates. And basically, again, this is for games. So if you're making a third person game, you want to use this template. If you're making a first person shooter, you want to use this template, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. They have a lot of fun stuff like a side scroller. It's really fun. And you've got handheld AR, all this stuff. But we're going to keep it simple. We're going to stick to the third person. Right, and then we're going to click on next again, and then you've got these options, right? So the blueprint, you've got two options, either blueprint or C++. It basically means in what way do you want to proceed? Do you want to do things with blueprints, or are you going to be like a programmer and code your way through C++? I can't program to save my life, so I'm going to go with blueprint. But if you want to go with C++, that's fine. We're not going to make games anyways, but if you want to follow along with the tutorial, it might be useful to select blueprint though. And then here the performance depends on your laptop or your computer. You can do scalable 3D or 2D. For me, it's fine to do maximum quality. I'm happy with that. I'm using a Mac, so we do not have ray tracing at this point in time. So mine will be disabled, but if you do have a NVIDIA RTX card, feel free to enable this. It's absolutely awesome. Then you have desktop or console or mobile tablet. We are working on a desktop, so I'm going to keep that here. And starter content, I strongly recommend to start with starter content because this will help you during the tutorial. This means that you'll have some standard assets to start off with. Right, so just leave it at starter content. Then here, you can choose where to save your project. What Unreal Engine is going to do is going to create an entire folder structure. So I'm going to quickly create one. Let's see, I have Unreal. Yeah, I'm going to use Unreal Tutorial. So find a place somewhere on your hard drive that you're comfortable with and create a folder for it, and just give the project a name. That's the next step. That's right here, right? So let's call this, for example, my first project. Okay, for example. If you do something that you can't do, like for example, like put in a dot, then it will say project names may not contain the following characters and so forth. So don't panic. It's just the engine telling you what you can or cannot do just to stay within the rules of or the confinements of the engine. Right, then let's create the project. So again, it's going to open up a new project. First time you open it, it might not be as fast as this. If you haven't done this before, it might take a bit longer. Why? You will also have here at the bottom, so don't panic, I don't have it here because I've already done this. But you might have, let me expand this a bit further. Let me see. Up and also this to the bottom. It's not doing it now. But either ways, what you can do here is you will normally see here that you'll have shaders that are compiling. Right? And I think it says like 4,000 and something at the very first time. Don't panic. It's also maybe not going to look like this. You're going to see squares on the screen. That's normal. Again, your engine isn't broken. Your download is fine. It just takes time. That's all it is. So once all these shaders have compiled, and this might take a little while for you, it depends, then you will finally see the screen, and you will have a sky and all this stuff, and then we'll be able to start. So I'm going to pretend that it's all done, that you guys got all these shaders compiled, and then let's get to it. I'm quickly going to explain what all this stuff is and what does what. Just a quick overview of the interface. Also, another thing before we do continue, it might be interesting to explain the following. So the way to look at Unreal Engine is kind of like a place where you can import libraries and assets, put them together in this kind of, I like to call it a playground because literally it feels like a playground. It's super fun. But all your animations, all your characters, your like 3D models like chairs, weapons, trees, whatever it is that you made in 3D or your colleagues have made in 3D and you're using, these things tend to be made in another program like Maya for 3D modeling or Blender for 3D modeling, 3ds Max, and animations as well. You know, they tend to be done in Maya and so forth. And then you export your files as FBX files, sorry, and you can import them into Unreal, right? So think of it like a place where you collect all that fun stuff, including sounds, everything, and here you bring it all back together on your playground, basically, right? That's how to think of it. So you're not going to technically animate in Unreal, even though that's perfectly possible. You can perfectly animate in Unreal Engine, but it tends to go a bit faster in a software package like Maya or Blender, and then you just import the animations, or you can get animations from Mixamo and all that stuff. We're going to cover all that soon enough. But just before we continued, I just wanted to make that clear that that's an interesting way or a good way of looking at the Unreal Engine. It's a place where you collect all your libraries and then put them all together and you start having fun. That's what Unreal Engine is really good at. Right, so let's quickly have a look at all this stuff, all this interface, right? So what we got here is on this side, I'll start here with the placed actors, right? So this is where you can place things onto your 3D viewport, right? So you've got like your recently placed, which at the moment will be empty. You've got your basic stuff, right? Well, if you want to import a cube, it's as simple as dragging and dropping. I'll show you that in a second. You've got your lights that you can import, like your point light, spotlight, all kinds of lights. You've got your cinematic stuff, like camera actors. Let me make this a little bit wider. By the way, all these images, I mean, all these windows, you can resize them. It's very useful everywhere, at the top, at the bottom, see? It's very, very fun. Right, then you've got your visual effects, which we will also cover much later. Geometry, which we'll also cover. These are all things that you can import. Volumes and, you know, all classes. And the fun thing is that because there are so many things that you can get, you can, for example, if you need a player start, you just type in player and you've got player start, right? So all these menus, they have search bars where you can just quickly get what you need. Okay, so this is where you can quickly just drag and drop things into your scene. Very useful, right? Things that you'll need. Then Above here, we've got the standard stuff like you save files, source control. We're not really gonna cover that because we won't really need to in the basics course. Modes is interesting, and we'll cover that later again, but you've got different things. You can create landscapes, which we're not gonna cover in this tutorial, but maybe at a later point, at a later course or something, we'll look into landscaping and foliage because these things, they are, yeah, they're a thing on their own. They're amazing things to do. We've got brush editing, which we will see, and mesh paint we're also not going to cover here. We're just going to basically cover brush editing in the basics course. But maybe in the future, we'll see. We'll see how this does. Content basically opens the content browser, which is this one at the bottom here, right? It says it right here. Then your marketplace is what you saw earlier on. Okay, so normally when you click on it, it takes you to the marketplace. If you do not see it, do not panic. You always do have it. In my case, I've got two screens, so I'll quickly get it from the other screen. There we go. And here's the marketplace, right? So that's basically the marketplace where you can get things to import and so forth. We'll get back to this sooner or later. Settings, your project settings, the world settings, all that type of stuff. Very useful, this one. Again, we'll cover that at a later point in time. Blueprints, basically all your coding stuff when you want to create different type of conditions in your world. Very interesting. Cinematics, we will definitely be seeing this, where we can create level sequences and how to animate things. That's all done here. Build, this is something that, again, we'll cover also later, but this is basically where you get to build your information all together. It's like your lighting, you're going to bake your lighting, you can add your reflections, like, build your space reflections, all that type of stuff you're going to see here. And we'll cover that later on as well. Play, well, that's literally just simple. You just click on it and you get to play, literally. Right? So you can move around and jump and all that stuff. It's, like I said, a game engine, so you get to preview your game. Right, so that's play, and we have different type of plays. We've got simulate, we've got, and we'll also look that at a later point in time. And then launch, again, it's different thing right here. Basically, like it says, launch this level on the MacBook, and it's kind of like launching it as a standalone. So also not something we're going to do, and we're not going to need. But at least you know now what these things at the top do. Right, then on this side we have the outliner. Okay, so this is where you have all your items. So if I were to, for example, select this thingy, and I do that with the left mouse button, sorry, with the left mouse button, when I select this cube, I have here the cube mesh, right? And I can also do it the other way around. Say, for example, I want to select wall number 11, which I'm not sure which one it is, but there we go. Now we can see it here. That's wall number 11. See, you can basically select your items here, okay, and that's basically what this is. Okay, you select your stairs and it selects it on the outliner. And so then when you select this, you end up selecting your staircase. Really that simple, right? Right, then we go, if we just bring this here, what you can see is that when I select an item in my outliner, then in the details menu, okay, I will get all the information about that item that I've selected. So you can basically consider this details menu like a sub-menu of whatever you've selected in your outliner, right? So again, if we select this cube, you're going to see different information here about the location. Let me open this up a little bit wider so you can see a little bit more information here. Like the transformation, the static mesh, what type of material is attached to it, all this type of stuff. Physics, so you can turn it on and then it falls by itself. Really fun stuff. But that's basically what this is, the details menu. And they change depending on what you're selecting. So if I select the light source, right, I'll get different type of information here. I'll get information about the lighting, rendering, light mass, whether there are going to be light shafts or not. All that type of stuff. So you can, a lot gets done in the details menu. But just know that these two are linked, right? That whatever you select here, you're gonna get some feedback in the details menu. And then we go to the content browser, which is where all your content is. Now, a good tip is to, you see here, there's a little icon on the left which says show or hide the sources panel. Well, it's useful to click on that because this is basically the same folder structure that your computer, so whether it's Windows or on Mac OS, would have created in your your Finder or in your Windows setup, basically Windows Explorer. So that's basically where all these folders, they're basically a mirror of that. So if you create a new folder here, it will be created in that location on your disk drive, hard drive, wherever that may be. So what I like to do, see, when I click on it, then you get to your different folders, your geometry, mannequin, which are these ones. And this is your starter content information, okay, so we'll get back to that in a second. But here, basically, you get to find, for example, if I were to click on mannequin and I were to click on character and I click on mesh, see, I've got my mesh. I've got a female character and a male character. And if I wanted to import that, all I have to do is drag and drop, and there she is. Okay, and she's in my world or on the scene. So, with that said, that's how you import things from here. And the thing that's very interesting about this is that what I like to do, I like to go on content, right? So just stay at the top level, close all these down, don't really need them, and I just use my filters. Okay, so for example, if I want to see all the, let's say, materials that are here, so I can open that filter and here we go. I got all the materials that are in this project, right? And I can import more, and the more I import, the more they will be added here. But at the same time, I could also say, I am interested in static meshes, right? So 3D objects and so forth. So now I can see all the static meshes plus the materials, for example. Now what happens when you only want to see the static meshes? Very simple. You can just click on static mesh, this one turns off, click on material, this one turns off, static mesh, you can see static mesh. You could have also just immediately turned off material, but I think I just accidentally clicked on static mesh first. But either ways, here you go. You can see all your static meshes right here. And if you want to switch to material, you click on there, click off here. If you don't want to see this anymore, just go to your filters and remove static mesh, and you won't be able to see that anymore. I like to keep a few open. So I like to keep static mesh open, material. Sometimes I could use textures, but I also use sometimes animation, like my sequences, for example, and I like to have quick access to my levels, right? So, and then I just turn them off depending on which ones I need. All right, so in this case, I look at the levels, right? You got a starter map, and this is, for example, the third-person example map. That's this one that we're working in. But you can also click on starter map. If you double click on it, it loads up a new map, a new environment, a new playground, so to speak, and you can explore that. Right, so with that said and done, that's how you go through all the stuff here, right? And all these folders, they have a lot of stuff in them. If you deselect everything, then you go back to the normal menu, and you can see all the stuff. So for example, you want geometry, you want meshes, and here are your meshes in standard geometry that you've got. But your starter content obviously has also more of this, right? You've got, I think it was in shapes, and then you've got, see, your basic shapes that you can already start blocking things out with if you really wanted to. Right, so that's the content browser. You can import and export stuff here, but I'll show you that also at a later point in time. You'll also learn how to simply drag and drop. If you've got a second monitor, this is golden. If you don't worry, you can just put the window here a little bit to the side, like so, and then if you've got stuff here, you can just import it and so forth. So very useful. All right, and then we come to the big one, okay, the most important one, which is the one in the middle right here, right? The 3D viewport, this one. Now, this is the one where all the action happens, and where you've got all the information on your sides that you want to use within 3D viewport. So again, we are just quickly going to go over it. We're not going to cover everything in detail in this video. We'll do that in the next one, as this is literally just an introduction to the interface, but I'll quickly just tell you how to navigate at least. Right, so in order to look around, there are a few ways of doing it, but the easiest way is just with your right mouse button, right? You just click your right mouse button and you can look around. right? If you want to move in your level, right? If you have a QWERTY keyboard, like I do, then you can use the same keys that you use for video games. So WASD, okay, so W will go forward, S will go backward, D will go to the side, and A will go to the side as well, just like in a video game. Normally, for you, it will be, yeah, this is an important thing because it went really fast for me. Normally, this is at camera speed is at 3, standard. So it won't go as fast as what happened here. So normally it would go something like this. That's the right speed. All right, and so you can look around with that. If you want to move around like in Maya, well, very simple. You just hold the Alt or Option key if you're on a Mac, and then you use your left mouse button, right? And the good thing, just like in Maya, if you select something and you press on the letter F, you will focus on the item, F for focus, and then you press the Option key, hold the Option key, and with your left mouse button, also hold the left mouse button, you can look around your item. Okay, so you can do that. With the right mouse button, you can zoom in. And if you wanted to pan, that was with Shift, I believe. I don't get, no, the middle mouse button. There you go. Not something I use all the time, but oh, there we go. Middle mouse button. There we go. So Option pressed in, and then the middle mouse button. I tend to use most of the time the keyboard shortcuts like in a video game, the ASDW, but I thought it was interesting to show you that you can do both. If you don't have a QWERTY, you can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard. Okay, so they will also move forward, backward, but you have to hold down the left mouse button while doing it. If you just press the, well, actually no, you can also move the arrows thingy, but that only works on the arrow keys. Okay, not on the W, A, S, or D key. That doesn't work. Okay, so, and there you go. That's how you navigate around. If you get stuck somewhere like really far away, okay, let's say you really messed it up, and this happens, and you don't know where you are, very simple. Don't panic. Go to your outliner, click on anything, just any random thing, for example, your light source, and just press the letter, so go back to the 3D viewport, press the letter F, and it focuses on whatever you chose on the outliner. So there you have it. That's the very first video in this series where we just really quickly covered the interface, what's what. In the next video, we're going to keep looking at the 3D viewport and how we can import all kinds of stuff. As a matter of fact, what might be a good idea before we do close this off is to just, you see this button right here on your content browser, save all. You just click on that and save what you've done so far. Okay, then the next time we open up in the next video, you'll be right where you started off. And there you go. I will see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed it.